Hello and happy Easter, horse lovers. For those of us who love the holidays and love reading horror stories, reading or watching, whichever media you prefer, different horror stories for the holidays, it's hard to find an Easter one. I know of a few Thanksgiving ones, there's loads of Christmas ones, and I even know a couple Halloween ones, but I've only ever come across one Easter horror story, and I thought this would be a good time to review that. It's called A Filly Called Easter by Laura Hess, and it's part of her holiday collection. Now, I love the other books that I've read so far in the series. This one, honestly, not so much. It's okay, don't get me wrong. I don't hate it, but I find a lot of it unrealistic, and I will explain why shortly. It now The author claims this is based on a true story, and she does give a description later on. It's on the Amazon website for it. If you scroll down, you'll see that she does say that the complications uh, the horse experiences in this story are based on a real event with a horse she knew, and a separate adventure that happens in the story is based on a different horse, and she kind of combined the two stories, which is fine, but I find a lot of the characterization in here to be faulty. And to me, that's really a shame because this is from the same author who gave us One Frosty Christmas, which is the first of the holiday series. Now, in that story, she focused on a young girl who had to have her leg amputated as a result of a car accident, and how she found renewed love of life through horses, and how her determination to save an abused horse helped her overcome the trauma of her past. Now, that one's a really great story, and I find the connection she has with the horse in the story to be very real. Now, this story begins with one of the friends of the girl from the first book. This young girl is Linda McCord, and she can't really barrel race that much on the pony she'd had. She's still going to keep that pony around, but it's time to shop for a different horse. Now, great credit to this author on that point. They're not getting rid of the horse that is no longer useful for that purpose. They're just saying, okay, we'll get another horse, but the horse we had is still going to have a loving home with us. I love that aspect because far too many horses in real life suffer through being sold after they're no longer quote unquote useful to their owners. But now here's what gets unrealistic. This girl goes with her father and brother to a livestock auction because her family runs a cattle farm and her dad's interested in some new bulls. And she knows there's got to be horses there. And her dad says, yeah, fine, we can shop for a new horse for you there. And instead of looking for a horse to race with like she originally wanted, she ends up falling in love with a 2-year-old pregnant filly. Now, of course, that could easily happen. It's, you know, kids especially will choose to take the horse, dog, cat, whatever animal that really needs them, as opposed to the one that, you know, most parents wish they'd take. That's not the unrealistic part. I'm the same way myself. I'd sooner save an animal in need than, find one that's already, you know, on the track to having a good life. I like to save animals, and so many are the same. That's not unrealistic. But what I find unrealistic is that her dad gives in on this almost immediately. Now, of course, there's going to be added responsibility with this. Easter, who's the pregnant filly, is only 2. Imagine a 10-year-old, 12-year-old little girl being pregnant. That's about how traumatic this is on the horse. This filly is going to have stunted growth as a result, likely have back issues. Nowadays, we know that there are parts of a horse's skeleton that aren't even fully developed until the horse is 6. So, obviously, not good. It's going to be a lot of extra responsibility, and on top of that, both the filly and the foal she's carrying could easily not make it. Now, that's why I find this unrealistic. As a parent, are you going to want to set your child up to potentially experience that kind of trauma? He does give a few words of caution, but he gives in far more easily than I would expect a parent to. They do talk about the different complications, and I'll get into that shortly. But now, another thing that I don't like about the characters, the filly's former owners who brought her to auction, they supposedly love her so much and they stay in contact with Linda and her family after they buy the filly. And if you love a horse, please do not sell them at auction. Yes, there's a lot of horses sold at auction who end up in good places, but it's also highly possible they could be bought by a kill buyer. It's possible they could be bought by someone who will be cruel or just simply not know what they're doing with a horse. Now, to put a pregnant 2-year-old filly in that kind of a situation, I get it. Sometimes you can't keep a horse through no fault of your own. Things happen. But an auction is not the place to sell a horse that you love. Luckily, of course, this filly ends up in good hands, and everybody, oh, I'm so happy that she's going to a good home. We'll keep in touch. Okay. And they are honest about, yes, there could be complications. For one thing, Easter experiences breathing problems because the foal growing inside her is crushing in on every organ this horse has because there's got to be room for this new foal growing. And a 2-year-old filly's body is simply not equipped to deal with that. There's one scary moment where she lays down for a roll and can't get back up. And the scariest part of all comes when there's a tornado following a really bad thunderstorm and Easter escapes. Because why not add in even more drama? I get it from a writing standpoint. You want to include, dramatic moments. You want something to keep the reader saying, oh my god, what happens next? But there's enough of that just with the complications this filly's going to go through from pregnancy. Another problem that I have with this book is the character of Old Man Levi. This character becomes the hero of the day, helping to deliver the foal when Easter is found again out in the middle of a terrible storm. He helps to deliver the foal and get everybody home safely, and he's basically hailed as the town hero. Well and fine, except this is the same guy who abused Frosty in the first book and who actually took a shot at the main girl from that story. He didn't intend to actually hit her, but he did, and to even threaten to shoot a little kid. Now he's suddenly the hero of the day? I mean, as far as characterization goes, no, this book is not well done. On a uh, on another note, the foal that's born to Easter is a filly who they name Bonnet, and Easter Bonnet. One thing that's interesting about her is the way her markings are described. She sounds like a medicine hat horse. Now, a horse with those markings are extremely important to different Native American nations. And in the first 2 books in the series, there is a heavy um, influence of Native American culture. Several of the characters are Native American, or at least part Native American. And yes, not every Native American culture is the same. But these particular characters were very well versed in the culture of other Native nations besides their own. And I find it very weird that none of them mention, oh yeah, Medicine Hat Billy, that's a good sign. That's significant. None of them, comment on that when Native American culture had such a strong influence on the first 2 books. So the story itself isn't terrible. I mean, it tugs at the heartstrings, it keeps you interested in what's going to happen to this poor filly pregnant at such a young age. But the characters are so out of whack that I just could not honestly enjoy this book. Um, Another thing about the filly's former owners, it's mentioned about Easter's former owners, it's mentioned that they bred her mother when her mother was very elderly because they simply couldn't bear to not have a foal from her. Okay, if you love your horse, you don't want them bred either too old or too young for obvious health reasons. And when they found out that she was accidentally bred, when the neighbor, their neighbor's horse broke into their field and bred with Easter. Now that can happen. Accidents happen. It wouldn't be the first time. It's not going to be the last. But there are medical steps that can be taken to prevent the pregnancy after the initial breeding, which, as a responsible owner, if you've got a filly that's only 2 years old, you might be excited about a foal from your horse, sir, but you take the steps to prevent being bred that young for her health. So I can't honestly see the people here being portrayed as caring owners. I can't honestly see old man Levi suddenly being the good guy. To me, it just doesn't make sense. On its own, it's not so bad, I suppose, if you don't consider what the characters did in the previous books. Then you don't have to say, hey, this doesn't have the same influence it should, so then it would be more overlooked. But I'd have to give this book 2 out of 5 stars, I would say. If you want to buy this book and give it a try for yourself, I'm including the link in the video. I know it's a little bit late for Easter, but this is the soonest I was able to get the video up. If you do take the time to read it, let me know what you think in the comments. This is just my opinion on the book. As a reviewer, you know, I comment my own thoughts, but a book or a movie that I absolutely love, my reviewers might hate, and my viewers might hate if they give it a chance, and vice versa. When I hate, they might love. So let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you all had a great Easter, and until next time, keep horses in your life.